and my water broke. This wasn't the plan, but we're going to the hospital. In that moment, you don't really know what to do and you're just trying to do the next right thing. I just had one moment where I looked at the doctor and I said, is there any other way? Hello and welcome to the Joyful Motherhood show. I am so excited about this new series that I'm going to do here on my channel, where I'm actually going to share a birth story every week. The first birth story is going to be my own because I never shared my fourth birth with you guys, and in the future I would love to share your stories. I would also like to share stories from the people around me here in the Philippines. If you missed my last video, I told you I moved to the Philippines with my family, and now that we're settled in, we've been here about 7 months, I feel like I have time and energy to talk about the things I'm passionate about and come back to my YouTube channel. So thank you for being here. I hope that you'll subscribe and join me every week as we do this new Joyful Motherhood show. Part of the show will always be some motherhood tips and advice, then the birth story, and then something that is bringing me joy that week. So the birth story today will be awesome. It was a really cool experience. I was actually planning a unassisted birth like I had with my third baby, and I have a video of that on my channel. But I actually ended up having an emergency C-section, and so I'm going to go into all of the details of that in today's video. But first, let's talk about a little tip or advice that I have for you, and this is something that's really cool to me, and it's birth affirmations. So during my fourth pregnancy, I really used birth affirmations more than any other time in my life, and what it is repeating positive mantras or affirmations that make you really prepared for what's coming. Our minds are so incredible the way they can have power over our bodies. Positive affirmations are not just for birth, but birth affirmations are so cool because they can help you prepare for your upcoming birth. And no matter what type of birth you're planning, no matter how much you know about birth or don't know, birth affirmations can just make you feel prepared and ready. And during birth, you can repeat things like, I am strong. And your body will actually believe that you're strong because your mind has that much power over it. So I wanted to provide you with some free birth affirmation printables, and I have put those on my blog. They will be linked in the description, so you can go print those out and maybe make your own and prepare for your birth that way. I know in my fourth birth, I was really feeling scared as it was coming up, and I started just reading some birth affirmations every night before I went to sleep. For example, my baby is working on her perfect position for birth. And that gave me a lot of confidence that she could get in the right position and that it would make birth easier. Another one I loved and I even put on my phone screen was, every day I am closer to meeting my baby. And that just really helped my mind to be at ease and helped me prepare for the upcoming day. I also had one that I repeated to myself every night, I grew this baby, I can birth this baby. And I think that's my very favorite one. Because I had such a difficult pregnancy, it was a nice reminder that all of that sickness, I handled it. And I got through the pregnancy, so I could certainly give birth to this baby. And that gave me strength, and I know that these things can give you strength. If you want to go check those out, go ahead and click the link in my description and you'll be able to print those for yourself. Now, let's get on to the birth story. Like I said, I was planning an unassisted birth. I had one with my third baby, and you can find out my reasons and all of that in previous videos. But for this birth, it made the most sense, again, that I would get a birth tub and that I would have a water birth at home. I was really excited and I felt confident in my plan. Now, leading up to that, I knew that if there was ever an emergency, I wouldn't hesitate to go get help. So I had the list of emergencies in mind, and I knew that certain things we couldn't handle at home, and so we would go to the hospital, but only for a few things. Sure enough, one of those things happened. I just finished watching the birth video that's posted on our other channel, Our Half Asian Adventure, so that I could refresh my memory. It's been about 11 months since my baby was born, but if you want to check out that video, you can see that. It'll be linked down below. But today I'm going to tell you a lot more details from the experience that were really left out of that. For about 2 weeks before the birth, I was having prodromal labor, which, if you don't know what that is, it's where you kind of have this false start and stop of labor, and your body doesn't quite kick into gear. So you can have contractions for a duration of time, and then they'll go away. A lot of times it's you have contractions all night, and then they stop during the day. And so that was happening to me, and I was up every night having contractions, and they were 5 to 7 minutes apart, and they just wouldn't pick up or get more intense. but they kept me awake. And so I was really struggling towards the end of the pregnancy. I felt very exhausted. So about a week before the birth, we went to acupuncture, and that actually helped ease the contractions. I think I had really good nights of sleep after that for a few days because it just helped my body relax. It wasn't ready to go into labor, but it was trying, if that makes sense. Finally, it was a Thursday, and we went to the chiropractor. I was so tired of this start and stop labor. My husband wasn't able to go to work. He needed to stay home with me. So we went to see my holistic doctor, and he's a chiropractor. And sure enough, after seeing him, he got everything in the right position, and he stimulated some acupressure points because by this time I was well past my due date. And after we went home, I just knew in my mind things were different. And I felt like, sure enough, the baby would come once we put the kids to bed. So that's what I was planning on. We blew up the birth pool. We were ready, had the hose all hooked up to the pool so we could fill it with water. And I was really looking forward to a water birth. I had that with my second baby, and I felt like that was my easiest birth. And so I wanted to repeat that as much as I could. I think with my third baby, it was a little bit harder not having the water. So yeah, that's what I was trying to avoid. But anyway, that night I was bouncing on the birth ball. The contractions were coming every 7 minutes, and I knew this was gonna happen that night. Still, after 11 p.m., they weren't getting closer together. And I told my husband, if these don't get closer together by midnight, I am going to sleep. I didn't wanna have another night of not sleeping, and so I made that my goal. And I was just sitting up in bed and listening to music. Sure enough, by 12 o'clock, they were still 7 minutes apart. So I decided I'll try and sleep between them. So I was doing that for a while, and all of a sudden I woke up to this pop and gush, and my water broke. I've never experienced that during labor. I've always experienced that at the very end when I'm pushing. In fact, my second baby was born en call, so she was in her sac still when she came out, which is kind of rare these days. I had never experienced that sensation, but I knew that it was my water. So I jumped up and I called to my husband, who was out in a rocking chair with my 2-year-old that had woken up. And I said, "It's time, the baby's coming, my water broke." And so he jumped up, and he was all sleepy, and he laid my toddler down and immediately turned on the water to the birth pool, because in his mind he thought, if your water broke, the baby's coming, it's that time. And so I was laughing that he was kind of rushing around, and I just waddled into the bathroom, and I was dripping all the way, and it's dark. So as I sat down on the toilet, I thought I should turn on the light so I can see, make sure that the fluid is clear. And sure enough, I turned on the light, and there was blood everywhere. And so I was shocked, and immediately my heart just dropped, and I knew that that would mean placental abruption. That would mean it's not safe anymore to be home. And so quickly I told my husband to turn off the water, give me your phone, I'm calling the hospital, I'm calling my mom to come with the kids, we have to go to the hospital. And he actually gave me a quick blessing as I sat in the bathroom, and it gave me a lot of peace. And I actually felt peace throughout this whole experience, even though it was so different than we had planned or hoped for. So I called the hospital, and I was still kind of sleepy and confused, but I was able to tell her I was bleeding too much, I was planning a home birth, and I'll just come in. So it's kind of silly that I even called probably, but just in that moment you don't really know what to do, and you're just trying to do the next right thing. And then I called my mom, and luckily she lived close by, so she was over really quickly. But I said, "Mom, this isn't good, I'm going to the hospital, please come be with the kids." She was there within seconds, and I just went to my room and grabbed the diaper bag and threw in some baby clothes, my clothes. I didn't know what to do. And then I just walked to the front door there. My mom met me, and I'm like, "Okay, we're going." She said, "Oh no, have you felt her move?" And I was like, "No, I haven't." So we're really worried about her for those few moments. And as we got in the truck, that's where the vlog starts. And I just say, this wasn't the plan, but we're going to the hospital. So at that point, I didn't even know if she was alive still. When you have a placental abruption, that really, if it's complete, then that means your placenta detaches from your body and it can't support the baby anymore. That's what's keeping the baby alive inside. And so I knew that she couldn't survive this, but I didn't know if it was just a partial abruption or what was going on. And because I hadn't felt her move, I felt really worried. So as we were driving down the road, I remember praying, and I think I prayed out loud even, just let me know if she's alive. And sure enough, I felt the tiniest little kick against my fingers, and I knew that she was alive still. So I'm so grateful for that blessing. After we got to the hospital, I had my husband just drop me at the curb, and I just started walking in. And I felt gushes as I took each step. And I had a moment of thinking, do I get a wheelchair so that I don't lose as much blood? I don't know. But I just knew I needed to get inside to get help. So I just kept walking in, and my husband was so quick parking the truck and ran in to meet me at the elevator. So we got up there, they knew I was coming, they immediately put me in the triage room, and my nurse was so nice. And everybody was so nice throughout this whole experience, and I'm so lucky to experience that where I lived, because I know a lot of places in the US you might be treated really poorly if you're coming in from home birth, especially an unassisted planned home birth. But they had me change into a gown. Before we left the house, I had pulled on one of those adult diapers because my water had broken and I was bleeding a lot. So when we got to the hospital, I just pulled that off and threw it away without really looking at how much blood it was or anything. And I just went and laid on the bed. And then, of course, in the hospital, you wait. So there was a lot of anxiety there for a few minutes, but they got the baby on the monitor, and I felt so much relief when I heard her heartbeat, and I knew she was okay. So then I was able to be a lot more patient, and it seemed like almost 2 hours that we were sitting there. I can't even believe it was that long because it all seemed to go so fast. But after they were able to figure out my records and who I was and all of that hospital policy stuff, they finally went to do a vaginal exam and check how far dilated I was so that we knew what we were working with and what we needed to do, because I was having contractions throughout all of that as well. As the nurse checked me, she said I was 3 centimeters dilated. Then as she pulled her hand out, then a lot of blood came with it. And so she immediately ran out and got a doctor and had him come in, and he quickly checked me, pushed up on the baby's head a little bit more, and pulled his hand out, and tons more blood came gushing out, and I could feel it, and I could see everybody's faces. And from what I know about birth and what I've studied and the schooling I've been to, I knew that it was time for a C-section. So I asked, C-section? And the doctor said yeah. Immediately everything happened so fast. We had so many nurses come in, I was signing papers, and I just had one moment where I looked at the doctor and I said, is there any other way? Are we making the right decision? Is this the only decision we can make? And he said, you're not close enough to delivering, and the baby can't handle labor, and so this is really the safest thing to do right now. So I just needed that little bit of encouragement to know that I was making the right decision. But overall, I know that that's what I needed to do. My body wasn't in active labor enough, and she wasn't doing well. And we knew even more after, because during the C-section, I lost so much blood. And they said that the baby was just swimming in blood. She was completely surrounded by blood in her sac, which is not normal at all. So I was bleeding internally, and they still don't even really know why, but what they put on the chart is placental abruption, and that's the best answer we have. So I just remember being wheeled into the operating room, getting the spinal tap, and everything was so fast, and they laid me down on the table, and it's so skinny, and you feel like you're gonna fall off, and then you put out your arms, and they put out the sheet. But I was just excited. I felt so excited. And when my husband came in, we were just giggling and kind of looking at each other what is happening? We're so in shock. We still feel like we're dreaming. But it was fun. My mom had C-sections. She had all 4 babies by C-section. And so I've heard about them, and of course I've studied them and everything. And when it was happening to me, I just thought it was cool. I thought it was really cool. And I felt so loved and watched over by angels. I felt like this was so perfect. The doctors that were there, the nurses that were helping me, I was just so well taken care of, and our lives were being saved, literally. So as she was born, they pulled her up and pulled down the curtain a little bit so I could see her, and then she went away to be cleaned up, and she was so bloody. She was totally covered in blood. And my husband went with her to get cleaned up. So I was laying there quite a while by myself, just staring at the ceiling. There was one moment where I felt like I was dying, and I had to ask everyone around me, if I'm dying, if I'm okay. I'm just laying there, am I okay? But it's because my blood pressure was dropping so low. And then they did bring her over to me, and I was able to kiss her and snuggle with her a little bit. And then we went to the recovery room. So that sums up my birth story with my 4th baby. I still can't believe sometimes that I've experienced so many different births. My first birth was a hospital birth with an epidural at the end. My second birth was with a midwife at home in the water. And my third birth was just me and my husband having our baby at home on the floor. And then the 4th birth, emergency C-section. But I'm grateful for the experience, and especially to be able to connect with so many moms here in the Philippines where C-sections are a lot more common. And it's a painful recovery, and it was so hard on my body. I still feel like I am recovering from it 11 months later. It's definitely a hard way to give birth, but I was so grateful for it. I was grateful that I was able to go to the hospital and get the help that we needed. Our little girl is 11 months old. She's one of my healthiest babies, and she's just been so much happier than my other babies too. So it's kind of like I had such a traumatic birth for an easier baby. So that's my birth story, and if you would like to share your birth story here on my channel or on my blog or my podcast, then please send me a message. My email will be in the description, and I would love to start sharing all of your stories. Next up is the thing that is bringing me joy this week. And so every week I will tell you something that I'm doing or that I'm excited about, and this week it is making pies. I have been watching a YouTube channel called North and South. They did something so fun. They did September pies. They made a new pie every day of September. It really inspired me and my daughter to learn how to make pie. I was so afraid to do it because we are gluten-free, and so I had to figure out how to make a gluten-free pie crust in the Philippines, which it's been hard to find the right ingredients, but we did it, and I feel so accomplished. It was so fun. We started with a banana cream pie, and then we got brave and made a chocolate pie. It was really fun, and I enjoy things like that where food takes a long time and then it's delicious and you get this amazing reward for the work that you put into it. And I think that makes food more fun and more enjoyable to eat. So we have enjoyed our pies, and it's something I want to keep up with my daughter. Like I said, now that we've been in the Philippines for a while, we're more comfortable and we can explore different things like that. And so I've learned how to make my own gluten-free flour. That is what has brought me joy this week. And I can't wait to see you guys next week on the Joyful Motherhood Show. Thank you for being here. I hope that you'll check out all my social media stuff and all the things in my description. Please subscribe and give this video a thumbs up, please. And if you would like to leave a comment down below, I would love to hear from you. I'll see you in my next video. Bye!